All right, so buckle up because today we're diving deep into some fascinating global health trends. You know how people are always saying the world's getting taller and how weight issues are all over the news? Well, we're going beyond the headlines and looking at how height and BMI have actually changed over the past century, especially for men and women in different parts of the world. We've got this academic article called Global Trends in BMI and Height, a gender-based analysis. Get ready to see just how much those numbers can reveal about human development and inequality.
Data on the screen, numbers come alive. Male, female flows where the patterns thrive. Visual charts, public colors unify. Gender decoded, bringing truth to light. Small drum fill. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide.
Hey there, ready to dive into some fascinating global trends. Today, we're exploring how BMI and height have changed over the past century, and you might be surprised to learn it's not just about individual health.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, these metrics paint a picture of inequality progress and the forces shaping human development around the world.
Wow.
We've got this intriguing research article, Global Trends in BMI and Height, a gender-based analysis. And let me tell you that the charts are like a time machine for understanding how the world has transformed.
You know, it's fascinating how these metrics, often seen as personal health markers, can also reveal so much about broader societal shifts.
Right, like looking at the scatter plots for height in 1896, it's striking how clustered they are with most women's heights between 150 and 165 centimeters, and men between 155 and 170 centimeters.
Okay.
But what's even more interesting is the huge gap between regions.
Absolutely. High-income Western countries were already taller than other regions like Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia even back then.
Yeah.
It really underscores how inequalities in things like nutrition and living conditions were already impacting people's growth a century ago.
It's almost like a preview of the global disparities we see today.
Right.
Now, fast forward to 1996, the scatter plot shows a much wider range of heights reflecting all the changes that happened over the century.
And while high-income countries still tend to be taller, some regions, especially East Asia and the Pacific, experience these incredible growth spurts.
Yeah.
Their heights really shot up, which makes you think about the impact of economic progress and better public health.
It's like watching a region catch up on a global scale. And here's something I found really interesting. By 1996, the gender gap in height had significantly narrowed compared to a century earlier.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
Back in 1896, men were significantly taller than women, particularly in regions with shorter populations overall. It's likely that unequal access to nutrition and healthcare played a role in that gap. So seeing it shrink by 1996 suggests positive changes in how we're approaching gender equality, at least in terms of growth conditions.
Okay, so we've talked about height now. Let's shift gears to BMI.
Okay.
The charts reveal some interesting differences between regions, but also between men and women. Let's start with the guys.
Okay.
Generally, BMI increased moderately for men in most regions, but some areas saw sharper increases.
Right. Latin America, Oceania, and the Middle East stand out. They experienced rapid urbanization and shifts toward diets higher in calories during this period, which likely contributed to the more noticeable BMI increases.
But then you have a region like East and Southeast Asia where men experienced both substantial height increases and BMI changes.
Interesting.
I'm curious, what does this tell us about the connection between economic development, nutrition, and healthcare access?
It really highlights how these factors are intertwined. As economic conditions improve, access to more nutritious food and better healthcare usually follows. And that, in turn, can lead to both taller heights and changes in BMI. It's a reminder that BMI is just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
We need to consider it alongside other factors like height and overall health indicators to get a complete picture.
So it's not just about the number on the scale, it's about understanding the context behind it. Now let's talk about women. Here, the BMI increases are more pronounced than in men, and the regional variations are even more striking.
This raises an important question. Why did women in certain regions like Latin America and Oceania experience the most significant increases? Could this be linked to cultural factors, socioeconomic disparities, or a combination of both? This really highlights the need for a more nuanced understanding of these trends and for gender-sensitive approaches to address them.
It makes you realize that these global trends can have very different impacts depending on where you live and your gender. Speaking of these trends, let's circle back to height for a moment. While women in East Asia and the Pacific saw impressive gains, that progress wasn't as consistent globally. What could be driving this inconsistency, and what are the potential consequences?
It suggests that there are still persistent gender disparities in access to healthcare and nutrition in many parts of the world. And these disparities can have long-term consequences, not just for individual women, but for entire communities. It's true. When we look at these height differences, it's like we're seeing the echoes of persistent inequalities, even as the world has changed so much in the past century.
Absolutely. And as we delve deeper into these trends, it becomes clear that there's no single explanation. It's a complex interplay of factors, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. But one thing that jumps out is the powerful influence of economic development. Think about those regions experiencing rapid growth, like we saw in East Asia.
Right.
They often see the most dramatic improvements in both BMI and height.
It makes sense when you think about it. As living standards rise, people generally have better access to food, healthcare, and overall better living conditions. It's like a chain reaction leading to better health outcomes.
Exactly. It's a reminder that investing in sustainable development isn't just about economics. It's about creating a foundation for people to thrive.
But it's not just about economics, right? There are other pieces to this puzzle.
Absolutely. Culture plays a huge role. Think about the incredible diversity of dietary habits, traditional lifestyles, and even gender roles around the world.
Yeah.
All of these can influence both BMI and height trends.
It's like each region has its own unique cultural fingerprint that shapes these metrics.
Right. And then we have to consider the environment, climate, altitude, even the types of food that are readily available locally.
Uh-huh.
These environmental factors all contribute to the fascinating tapestry of human development we see across the globe.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is, from the food we eat to the places we live. It all plays a role in shaping our health and well-being. So as we wrap up this deep dive into global trends in BMI and height, what are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, I think the first takeaway is that these trends, these seemingly simple metrics of BMI and height, are like windows into global health. They provide valuable insights into how populations are doing and how different factors are affecting people in various regions and across genders. It's about looking beyond the numbers and seeing the bigger picture.
And we can't forget about those gender disparities in BMI, especially in certain regions. It's a stark reminder that we need targeted interventions to address these issues effectively.
Absolutely. And speaking of disparities, remember how height emerged as a powerful marker of development?
Yeah.
It really reflects the combined impact of economic growth, nutrition, and healthcare. It underscores the importance of investing in these areas for improving overall well-being.
It's like height becomes a sort of shorthand for a region's progress, reflecting the complex interplay of these crucial factors.
Exactly. And then there's the global nutritional transition. We talked about urbanization, and those shifts toward different diets are driving those BMI increases, especially in developing regions. This underscores the need for policies that promote balanced diets and active lifestyles.
It's a reminder that while economic development is important, we also need to be mindful of the potential health consequences that can accompany these changes.
Right. And while we're talking about policy, let's not forget those public health successes. High-income regions have managed to stabilize BMI trends, which shows us what's possible when comprehensive public health strategies are put in place.
It's encouraging to see what can be achieved when we prioritize public health, isn't it? It shows that we can make a difference.
It really does. But even in those high-income regions, addressing the stagnation in height gains remains a priority alongside their efforts to manage obesity. And of course, we have to acknowledge that these trends vary significantly from one region to the next. Some areas are making great progress while others face ongoing challenges.
It highlights the need for approaches that are tailored to each region's specific circumstances. A one-size-fits-all approach simply won't work when it comes to global health. It really makes you appreciate how much work still needs to be done to address these disparities and ensure everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
It definitely does. We've seen some
Yeah.
progress, but those persistent inequalities in BMI and height, they really demand our attention. We can't
Yes.
just assume things will naturally even out.
So what can we do? I mean, what steps can we take either individually or as a global community to address these complex challenges?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer, but I think it starts with awareness. By understanding these trends and what's driving them, we can start to advocate for change. Knowledge is power, as they say.
So we need to be informed citizens, essentially.
Exactly. We need to support policies that promote equitable access to things like nutrition, healthcare, and education. Those are the foundations for a healthier future for everyone.
It's about leveling the playing field, so everyone has the chance to thrive regardless of where they're born or what circumstances they face.
Absolutely. And achieving that requires a multi-pronged approach. It's going to take governments, organizations, and individuals all working together to tackle these complex issues.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a healthier and more equitable world. And it's not just about tackling those big global issues either.
Right. Even small actions can make a difference. Supporting your local food bank, advocating for better school lunches, encouraging healthy habits in your own family, all of these things can add up to real change.
It's about taking that global awareness and translating it into action in our own communities.
Precisely. And that leads me to a thought-provoking question for you to consider. We've seen how height can be a powerful indicator of development, reflecting the complex interplay of nutrition, healthcare, and economic opportunity. But what about other metrics? What other indicators could we use to track progress towards a more equitable and healthy world? What data points would really tell the story of human flourishing in the 21st century?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with, and encourages us to think beyond those traditional measures of progress and consider what truly defines a thriving society. It's about looking at the whole picture and recognizing that health and well-being are multifaceted.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that this journey towards a healthier and more equitable world is ongoing. There's always more to learn, more to do, and more ways to contribute to positive change.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into global trends in BMI and height. We covered a lot of ground, but this is really just the beginning of the conversation. We encourage you to explore the research we discussed, delve deeper into the factors influencing these trends in your own region or areas of interest, and most importantly, continue asking those thought-provoking questions. There's always more to discover.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.